Thanks, guys. Hope you had a good coffee break. My name is Daniel Carvalhinho, and my talk is about the let's bring in new people to Drupal. Basically, it's based on a few problems that I have been seeing, and it's a very opinionated presentation. It's my opinion on this. But yeah, quick thing on who I am. So I'm Daniel. I'm Carvalhinho, or any variation of that. You don't need to worry too much about pronouncing it. Not even Brazilians. I'm Brazilian. Not even Brazilians do it well. So don't worry. I'm a manager at Acquia for the TAM, the Technical Account Management team. And I've been working with Drupal for 16 years now, 26 years on PHP, so a good while dealing with this. And yeah, that's it really. So what triggered me to actually do the presentation? It is something that I've been talking about for a while, but the current scenario that I saw, I don't know how many of you did see Driesnote in Portland 24, but Dries came up and did an exercise that he asked people to stand up and slowly sit down, asking like how many people are working with Drupal for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years. And he saw that people only started to sit down after 5 years, 10 years. So most of the people were just old people that have been working with Drupal for a while, right? It's not people that have been like new to Drupal anytime soon, right? So it is awesome to have that, but at the same time, it is very worrisome because, like, if you don't have new people coming in, things start to derail a little bit at least as well. So what are the problems that I see with that? One thing is that I see that people are not actually using Drupal for personal use anymore. Like they are not creating small sites or anything like that. And that leads to people not really getting into Drupal and leads to companies to not being able to find junior people or intermediate people even, because seniority of the people is rising, and this is also getting to a point where the projects that are Drupal projects, they are getting more expensive because you need to pay more for people to come and do it. So even like easy tasks, they cannot, like you don't have a junior guy that you can just throw it in their hands anymore. So it's very expensive to change something simple. And then this also leads to small businesses cannot afford having like a full-on Drupal project because it is just expensive for them to do it. And like ties all together that in a certain a given point we don't have people using Drupal, we don't have new people coming to Drupal, we don't have site builders anymore almost. Like most of the people that are experiencing Drupal, they are senior developers. They don't have the lower level people. So, and this also leads to maintainability of any websites that you have on Drupal to depend a lot on having some agencies that have all these senior guys working there to do the maintenance, which gets expensive as well. And there is more, right? These are just a few things that I saw. So the possible reasons for that I see at least are, one thing is all the move that we did from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, that we changed the whole architecture. And don't get me wrong, I think that was the best move. I feel like this was the right thing to do, but it did leave lots of websites behind. Lots of people didn't really move away from Drupal 7. And lots of people moved away from Drupal because of that. They didn't really want to adapt to Symfony and all this stuff. They just wanted to keep doing like that PHP, very procedural way of doing stuff. So, and that you can see that very clearly whenever you see the usage chart, that all that red is just Drupal 7 is still in use. So it's going to be like that zombie that exists forever there, right? So, and this is one reason, right? Another reason that I see as well is that you can see that there is a shift of people starting on JS instead of starting on PHP. So, sorry. And so you have all these new people coming into the market, and all they see is, hey, do some React.js, do some whatever framework that you want to name there. And it moves people away from PHP. Not having PHP, it makes it harder to bring people into Drupal. And the fact that PHP dies every year is also confusing for a lot of new developers because, yeah, why am I going to put any time on learning something that is dying, right? Another reason as well, maybe another thing that happens is that the low-code, no-code idea is on the rise, so you can see that lots of people are just choosing to go to Squarespace or to Wix or to anything that is something like that, and just get rid of all the maintenance, all the upgrades, and everything that is like hands-on developer that you need somebody to do. And you go back to the not having junior people, not having, let's say, the true like cheap like ways to keep your site running, and you just have senior people, and then it makes it harder for the smaller ones to use that. So they just choose to pay a subscription, but they don't need to do anything, really. And a big one that I see here, and it's an advantage for WordPress, is that we don't have a low cost, like easy to use, one-click install that like WP Engine or WPMU Dev, that you just go there, click a few buttons, and you have a website running. You don't have a Drupal way of doing this. Like, there are options that, like, if you dig into some hosting companies, you will find like a way to install Drupal, but there is no dedicated hosting doing that, which is like also a way for the smaller businesses to get into WordPress, because like you have, it is usually cheap to do that. And the last thing that I have on these reasons is something that we all know. The learning curve of Drupal is just way too steep, and it is still steep, right? It is different steep now because we use a lot of standard things, because like if you look at Drupal 6, 7, like I imagine lots of people here know that it was very Drupal way of doing everything. Now you have Symfony there, you have lots of standard things like object-oriented programming, etc., but it is still hard to get into Drupal. And something on that from the time that I was working with Drupal 6 is a funny story. Once a new guy came into my team, and I saw, like, it was Gtalk back then, right? And I saw the status message that he had, and it was a very, like, it was the experience that he was having, right? That he was like, oh, now I understand why the Drupal icon is a teardrop. Like, so he was coming from like SharePoint.net, but anyway, it was his experience of struggle. Anyway, what can we do with that? Like, what can we do to make it a little bit better, at least? So some ideas that I have, and I cannot like leave this out, which is Drupal CMS, right? What Drupal CMS is bringing to us, although like if you think about maybe us as like agencies and big corporate or enterprise, we may not be using Drupal CMS all that often, but this is bringing an opportunity to the Drupal community to bring new people into Drupal, because this is a easy way for people to actually install Drupal. I remember my first experience with Drupal 5, it was not cool. I remember installing it and saying like, what should I do now? And I just uninstalled it and I went away. So Drupal CMS is changing this to a point where you can just install a new feature from the get-go, right, from the installer. So the installer itself is way more streamlined. Like, recipes will help a lot. And it's not only the recipes that are going to come with core, but also any other recipes that the community may contribute to. And yeah, like the other points, like UI is much better. And I feel like having the project browser inside Drupal is a big thing, because it was always something very hard to explain to new people. How do I go to Drupal.org and I go through all those projects and I find what I want? It's just not cool. So project browser is changing that. And then you have the automatic updates, which is not something that, I'm sure that is not something that big companies are going to use or everybody's going to use, because you have lots of security considerations and maybe just change approvals and etc. But for the smaller people, the smaller users, the smaller businesses, it's just a good way, an easy way for them to to keep everything up to date without needing to go and hire somebody every single time that they need to update anything, right? And usually they would have a way less complex installation, like our website, which would allow them to simply update a module instead of going through the whole process of upgrading that needs to check 100,000 stuff. And AI agents is something big. I know that it doesn't really work that well all the time, because it is what it is, but like it's getting there, right? And it's good. The next thing that I see as well is the experience builder, because maybe bigger websites are not going to use experience builder all the time, but for these smaller people, it is going to be a change, a big change, because being able to create whatever layout that you want to create just based on components that you already have on your website, and being visual doing it is going to be great, big, right? Something else that I see, training, right? Before, I don't know how many of you have ever seen it, but there was an initiative from the community it started back in 2011. It kind of went to 22, but not really. That was the Drupal Global Training Days. And it was a great way to bring new people, more than just the meetups, the camps, or DrupalSouth, events like this that have only sessions and etc., but having small workshops that were basically usually given inside universities or something like that, where we could allow people that were brand new to Drupal or even new to web development in general to get a taste of Drupal. So I did organize a few of them back from 2012 to 16, I think. And the formats that we usually did were having a what is Drupal version, which was very showcasing Drupal and show what can you do with Drupal and etc. And then having a second one that was a longer one that was very hands-on, where people would build something like a catalog, and they would be able to see listing stuff with views and creating individual pages for products and etc. And it was always great to see how empowered people felt after that. And it was Drupal 7, Drupal 8, and it was harder to do this, but still they felt very empowered. And I know lots of people that became developers after coming to one of those. So this is a great way to get people into. And again, Drupal CMS gives us a great starting point to bring that back and actually amaze even more people. And sorry. Another one, I don't know if you guys know about the IXP fellowship, the initiative that is about onboarding new inexperienced developers, that they say, which is basically new people that saw Drupal for the first time or did some sort of workshop like Drupal Global Training Days, and they don't have any work experience with Drupal, but they are trying to find a spot, but it is very hard for them. So the idea of this initiative is to create what is the journey that this guy that is brand new to Drupal needs to go through. So it's not only about Drupal itself, but everything that is around in the ecosystem, like Git and et cetera, So everything that is around, what does this guy need, this girl need to go through and to learn before they are even considered a junior developer. So, and how are they planning to do that? They are basically looking into supporting and helping any initiatives that are training initiatives, education initiatives, to get more power and get more visibility so they can bring people into these events or these things. It could be like a free event, like a Drupal Global Training Day, or like some workshops that we may have on the community, or meetups, as well as it could be, I don't know, Drupalize Me or Drupal Easy or anything like that. Anything that is looking to spread the word on Drupal and help people to learn Drupal is part of their like initiative. They're part of what they are going to support moving forward. Moreover, the idea, there is an idea as well of getting these people that are just new and bringing them into the contribution spaces, where you don't need necessarily to be a very experienced with Drupal to help on like testing or help on going there and just trying to replicate stuff, clicking around and etc. And it's everybody that have ever been to like in a contribution day know what is the energy there. Like everybody is helping everybody. It is something that makes people get more engaged with Drupal itself. So this is another thing that would help a lot. And then they also want to get businesses to actually invest on these contributions that these people are doing, but also to offer mentorships and internships to these guys, that like these people that are just starting to find something that, like in a project or anything, that they can give to these people that don't know a whole lot yet, but they could be doing and could be testing or anything like that. So that is another good thing. Yeah, and yeah, a few other ideas that I have as well are the idea of partnering with universities. This was something that I had whenever I was in Brazil. We had a lot of this. Like we would go into the university, find an advocate, that a person that was part of the computer science course or anything like that, find a professor there and talk to this guy and get this guy to help us to bring the workshop, like bring like the Drupal Global Training Day into the university. So they would actually provide sometimes just an auditorium, sometimes they would provide even like the computer lab, and we would be able to like configure everything, get everything ready for people to come and develop on Drupal, because not everybody would have like a laptop to bring and etc. So we just set it up the way that, like back then it was Vagrant, right? Like now we could just use DDev and set it up on all the computers, and whenever people come there, they are just ready to go and just start doing stuff, and we guide them smoothly through what they can do with Drupal. Yeah, it might be like a very like a staged way of developing, but it takes away all the frustration, at least at first, and they can get frustrated later, but at least we help them to get to something at first, right? So yeah, and another thing, the next step would be, hey, can we get this as part of one of your disciplines? Like, can you teach this as part of your discipline? So those are two things. And the other thing is JS integrations with like frameworks. And I mean like more in the headless space, right? Why not to bring people that are already developing on JS, and they can come to Drupal, like especially now with like Experience Builder and single directory components and etc. And why not to have these people come and help us creating more stuff and show them how they don't need to actually build the whole backend. They could like focus on the front end, on the components, and build the backend with Drupal and use all the like already tested features that we have in terms of REST and JSON API and GraphQL, and integrate with whatever APIs that they may have in the backend, right? So these are things that we could do as well. I mentioned there like Next.js and Druxt.js as a few projects that exist that already integrate Drupal and JS already. And there are surely more of those that I don't even know. So yeah, I'm basically almost done. So the message here that I want to leave is really for us all to get together and think about it, like in our daily life, like where can I find, like can I create something that will help in this journey of bringing new people to Drupal. So Drupal CMS, again, is a big thing, and we should not take it like minimize its impact. It's a big thing, and we need to take advantage of that to show off and like bring people to get to know Drupal now that it is easy to do it. And like the focus that we can have, like besides like going into Drupal CMS, is also to focus on our documentation, that like we all use it, but we all know that it's not great. So we need to go back and consider editing more documentation, creating more documentation. One thing that Vladimir said on his talk yesterday that I found it was interesting for me is like, why don't we instead, whenever you have an idea to like create a blog post, why don't we create a new documentation page instead? Why don't we go there to the documentation and like, hey, the documentation is not really going through all the ways that we want to go. Why not to go to the documentation, the documentation and create something there that can be reused, that can be maintained as part of the official documentation of Drupal, right? So this is one thing. Then like education, as education I mean like Drupal Global Training Days, workshops, meetups, camps, DrupalSouth, DrupalCons, everything that can bring information to people and can get people together. Because yeah, we all live in this remote life, and I love working remotely and etc. But whenever community-wise, I like to be in the event. I prefer not to be remote. So whenever it's a Drupal event, I want to be here, not just online. But online is an option. Like it's not. I'm not saying that don't do it online, right? If online we can like reach more people. Online we can get people, like we can leave the record in like on YouTube or anything like that people can go and do it on their own pace as well. But consider always bringing people together, because it is easier to create this relationship and etc. And yeah, and which leads to the engagement part of it is about making sure that they are not just learning Drupal, they are looking into becoming part of the community, because it's not about learning a tool and go live by themselves. Like we all know the motto that Drupal always, like it's a Drupal thing, like come for the code and stay for the community, right? So it's about community as well. It's not only about getting people to Drupal and go away. So, sorry. And so, yeah, the idea is more volunteers, start mentoring people, create more content, and spread the word about Drupal. It's like find people and talk about it, always. I have some links there talking about the Global Training Days, like a few things about Drupal CMS, and a lot about the IXP initiative, like especially the last link is a very good one. I suggest you to read that whenever you get the chance and you get these slides. And that's it, really. Thank you. Cool. We have 5 minutes, is that? Around that. If anybody wants to ask anything.
I'm interested in your experience with universities in Brazil.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any universities in Melbourne or Australia that are actually, yes? Okay, you want to talk a bit about how that came about, or yourself?
I don't have any experience with universities here, so.
Okay, yeah.
I can talk a little bit about it. Just on behalf of our team, was here from Victoria University, based in Melbourne's West, Footscray, multiple campuses. Our public-facing website is using Drupal. We've had a long-running traumatic project to get over from D7 into D10 now. And I can kind of talk, well, I'm not from a partnerships team, but I can say like the fact that we have a public-facing website using that versus Quiz versus, which is predominant in Melbourne uni sector. And also a lot of them are using Adobe Experience Manager. But on getting more people to Drupal, there is absolutely an opportunity there. I wouldn't necessarily just say a big uni. But we look after TAFE or tertiary TAFE and diploma students through to higher ed. So you've not only got students who are active in communities like in current students, you also have a pipeline who might do short courses, who also really should understand the fundamentals of using open source software. And I actually think there's also the key thing that unis that aren't in the global aid, so Melbourne Uni and Monash, they basically are, they're like, build it and they will come because of the reputation. But for the smaller universities, the big thing we want to focus on is obviously job-ready graduates and career outcomes, because that's what really students want at the end of the day. That's what they're looking for. So I think if they can actually get that experience in learning how to do these things, then they can get embedded in the community, meet more people, network, sorry for using that term, but yeah, build that community. And also the other thing is there's always an appetite there through internships, that junior developer, new developer journey to junior. Obviously that takes overhead for staff to do it, but I think there would be, yeah, there's always an appetite there. But I can definitely say on behalf of like looking at other unis, the big thing is employment outcomes. Because really it's expensive to do a degree now unless you do free tape, and they really want to make sure that they've got some sort of pathway at the end of it if they know what they're doing. So yeah, anyway, sorry for dominating.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else? No? All good. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So what they talk about there is about the pyramid is about the websites that exist on Drupal. So he says that the base of the pyramid is like are the small sites, and that the small sites are disappearing. So the base is going away. So you don't. At some point, it's going to be hard to keep up all the other parts of it, right? So and he's basically focusing on the thing about it's getting expensive to build Drupal from scratch, like for smaller people and etc. And so you see only the enterprise and like government and etc. building it, instead of seeing like the smaller people, like smaller businesses and etc. building Drupal. So it talks a lot about this, and he doesn't believe it's sustainable, and it isn't really, because at some point if you don't have smaller ones, you don't have new people, you don't have like at some stage it's just going to be very corporate and very hard to keep up.